I'm Van Sebastian here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge Season 9 Episode 28 interview. Our guest is April McCloud, and she's here to talk about her debut novel. So let's get to know our guest. April McCloud is a 1% bionic human who worships her cat and hopes to be reincarnated as a red panda. A librarian, educator, and opinionated black belt, she hails from Rochester, New York, and enjoys plotting, be it a book, vacation, or a heist at a gluten-free bakery. She identifies as disabled, LGBTQIA+, neurospicy, and as a struggling practitioner of Zen Buddhism. April, welcome to the show.
Hi, great. So happy to be here.
We're happy you could jump in last minute. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So I have to ask, heist at a gluten-free bakery? Is there
Yeah.
a story there? Do we need to know about this?
Not yet, but I have thoughts. I have thoughts, and like trying to find good gluten-free baked goods is worth a heist. It really is. It really is.
Fair enough. I get it too. So, all of that going on in your life, why did you decide to put pen to paper? What was the spark, the inspiration there to do so?
Yeah, actually, my life is kind of very bizarre in the fact that I was a writer for a very long time. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, I've been writing since I was a teenager, but I always thought that I wasn't creative and I didn't have great ideas. And but I just ended up writing anyway because I couldn't not write.
hmm.
But my life took a really big turn a few years ago when I became totally and permanently disabled. I ended up I have a heart disease where I go into spontaneous cardiac arrest.
Oh
Oh,
no.
wow.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Like I only have to avoid triggers like, loud noises or fever or stress or emotions. Like I mean, it's so easy to avoid. Yeah, but I had so easy. But I had five near fatal events in 13 months, and then I went on Social Security disability. And yeah, and that thing that I knew I could still do was I could keep writing. So I kept writing and have been writing, but trying to get published is a whole other beast. And I had tried before, but I just, rejection, am I right? So who cares? So I didn't really try really hard. But after I became disabled, I started trying really a lot harder to get published. And yeah, so that's where a lot of things have come from, especially in this book. There's a lot of disability rap, which a lot of it came out of becoming disabled and living the life that is a little bit different.
Understood. So, if I were to see your book on a table at like a Pride event, what would you tell me the elevator pitch is?
Oh, okay. So hold on, sidebar. Let me look it up. Do you want me to actually read the blurb or do you want me to
No,
just give the
just
elevator
in your
pitch?
own words
Yeah, your own
Oh,
words.
okay.
on sidebar.
So yeah. So I'd say that it is about uh switching bodies and what that really means for gender affirmation and for disability. So being able to either upgrade your body or completely switch it out, what that can mean is insofar as those two very narrow things. There were a lot more things I could talk about when you talk about swapping bodies entirely, but
Yeah,
I try to
right.
stay to just those two. So it looks at people who want, their body to affirm who they are, and also people whose body doesn't work quite right, and what that can mean for affirming disability. I'd like to say it is not a, panacea to fix disabilities. That's not the point of the novel, but what it means to be in a world where disabilities can be helped a little more easily, but also because they're easier to help, what does it mean that there are lots of people who just want them because they look cool?
Right. And your main character is against the idea, at least at the beginning, right?
Yes, she's very much into humanism and keeping her body as exactly as it is, which is a point of tension with her brother, who is really wants more of a gender affirming body.
All right. So, what's the crux of the story? Like, what's the plot? What draws you in?
Drawing it in would be the fact that the first thing you start off right from the beginning that the brother is in a lot of trouble and he is in the criminal underworld and he disappears, and it's up to his big sister to try and find him. And she's an NYPD cop, and she has to make some hard choices about, is she going to put her career and her life on the line in order to find him and to save him yet again?
So are they
And
close, or is it a troubled relationship?
Mhm. Oh, it's a close and troubled.
Oh,
because
okay.
yeah, because their mother died. Their mother, both their parents died when they were pretty young. So the
Uh-huh.
sister was 18 when it happened, so she became the guardian, which is always a
Right.
bad state of affairs when you have a young sibling taking care of a younger sibling and trying to make that work. So they're very close, but it's
Right.
also a hot mess of a relationship. It's not, I wouldn't say it's not toxic, but it's not healthy dynamic.
Right. Well, it's a sibling kind of situation.
It's a sibling situation when you're also adding in a bit of maternal care, which it just doesn't go well. People really like to have the separation between all their different identities. Really, when it comes to like parents and siblings, they don't want a older sister who's also a mom. You just don't want it. You just want to be able to
Right.
be yourself. Yeah.
Right.
mhm. So is his trouble an official case for her, or does she just have the skills and goes rogue?
She goes rogue. She's been told explicitly not to go after him.
Oh,
Yeah.
dun dun
So
dun.
it's on the QT. Okay.
Yeah, and she's happens to be dating the CEO of the corporation that is the height of vanity upgrades. So there are vanity upgrades, which are changes to bodies which are not medically necessary, that are cool and fun and like, but also on the flip side are kind of a little bit ableist and sexist and making caring about beauty more than anything else, turning your eyes into gems, those type of things. So she's dating him, and so she tries to find a way to be able to go after her brother by doing something illegal.
Dun dun
To get
dun.
into
Dun,
that
dun,
world.
dun. Yeah, to get into the world, because she can't go in with her cop body to the underground. They're gonna know she's got a cop body. She can't do that, so she has to get a body that's, yeah, that's not, but also one that has more armaments too, because that's also upgrades that you can get as weapons, and that's where it gets in a lot of fun. Was writing a lot of the fight scenes where there are body upgrades that are a little wild, like you can have extra hands, you can have hands in place of feet, you can have different things. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and there are cannons. Like it is, I love explosions, I love action movies, and I love writing fight scenes, so there are a lot of fight scenes. And I'm also a martial artist, so I have a lot of martial arts in there as well.
Nice. And you've got the experience to back it up. Well, maybe
I
not
do.
explosions, but martial arts.
Not explosions. I definitely, I mean, I really want something. I've found online you can go to like shoot a tank, and that's a bucket list item. I'm gonna go find a way in Texas, of course, because
Of
of
course.
course.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Yes.
am 100% going to Texas someday to fire a tank, and that'll be great.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a goal.
All right. Well, apparently brother has in this dark, seamy underworld of modification. I don't want to ask too many spoiler things, but is his exploration one of you said called it self-affirmation, I guess. So let me start from that direction. Um, is he trying to be modified and can't, or did he accept money from somebody for modifications and now he's in trouble? What got him going there?
You find out in the early part of the book that he has a bounty on his head from one of the criminal crime bosses, that is out for his head because he stole some drugs, which that he has problems with drugs.
Gotcha.
But the other piece is about going through all of this. Is he able to find a more affirming body down the line?
Got it. All right. Is there anything? Oh, Bez, do you have questions?
No, I was just trying to sort it all out. I mean, it's an interesting concept, and you talk about the body modification or the body alterations that can go on and stuff, but I'm not understanding body swapping. I'm not getting that part of it. If you can explain that a little bit more, just so I have it clear in my mind. Because when you first said it, I went, well, I'm kind of in an Anne Rice mode right now. I'm reading a lot of Anne Rice stuff again. But the Tales of the Body Thief, where there was actually a spirit swap rather, or your essence moved to another body. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the body swapping kind of element to it.
Yeah, that basically how it all started was I thought about I was sitting at my friend's apartment and I was cat sitting and I was like, I could see myself in this life. And then I was like, that would be really cool if you could just buy and sell a life wholesale, like all pieces of it. You just everything, you just switch it up. You just walk in, you are now somebody else's life. And I thought of that like in a modern world. And then I was like, I can push this further. And what if you could actually just wholesale buy and sell your actual body and like just change everything completely? And so that would be the most expensive option is actually
Right.
going from one body to another. But otherwise, you can just like upgrade your legs so that they can run faster, or you could upgrade your arms, or, obviously all the other work that people have done in plastic surgery is still available. And looking at that, but then the idea of like being able to swap bodies. I 100% hand wave. I have no basis in science for how that works, but it is just basically like neurologically, your entire neurological self switches into the new body and you just wake up in the new body.
Well, I mean, you have the whole Frankenstein lore, so I think you're in good stead.
Yeah.
The waving of the
Thank
wand.
you. Yes.
It's
I mean,
just like,
and it's all there's lots of tech and computers and beeping. So like I feel like that makes it a little bit better. There's
oh,
lots
there
of
you go.
beeping machines. I mean, that's really all you need in the sci-fi, right? Is in
Right.
fantasy,
Yeah.
you just need
And a lot of
potions.
techno babble that
Yeah.
no one understands.
Yes, in sci-fi, those just machines and like, oh, this stuff isn't like, cruddy stuff from Kazakhstan. This is our good quality, American made stuff. So you have that. So
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that because I was trying to figure out how that fit into this whole framework that you were setting up. I got the upgrade kind of thing. I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. But
Hmm.
the body swapping thing was something I was like, okay, is it like, I how like if there was a
mhm.
body that you were buying into, what happens to the person who had that, that kind of thing. That's what I
Yeah.
was trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah. So there has to be an empty shell that you're going into. But I do find it funny that I don't address it. But to me, I always have done the math. Like there should never be an empty body. Like I don't know
Right.
if you're doing swap, it should be swapping. But there are empty bodies, and like so, I don't know if basically what
Did it
happened is either
take?
they, yeah, well, like did they just harvest some organs from someone who died and then just put the rest of it as like just machine around it, and that just happens to be that. But like I don't answer that question. But there are just empty shells you can go into kind of like an empty house or an empty car. But
Right.
I have that has crossed my mind that there should not be an empty shell. Like the math doesn't work out, but hand waving, beeping machines, it's all fine. We're good.
Okay.
So I have two very separate thoughts on that.
Yeah.
One, X-Men sort of covered that, where at one point Charles Xavier, lost access to his body, entered into the body of someone who was comatose and never expected to reawaken.
Yep.
So
So
there's
we're just
that
gonna hand
weirdness.
wave. We're gonna hand wave that
Yeah,
one. Yep. Add that one
yeah,
in there.
all
Sure. Why
kinds
not?
of moral issues there. But the other question I had, the bigger one is, how does this address the idea of immortality?
I do not address that in this book. So that is a question that came up, but that is not
Yeah.
touched. But yes, there is one character who it's kind of insinuated that they have no idea how old he is. But this has also only been this is only 100 years in the future. So
Okay.
we are not at that point where if it was 300 years in the future, we could start kind of having that discussion of like how old are people. But there is one character that they're like, we don't actually know how old he is, and
Hmm.
he's very cool. But they're just like, how old is he? Because he's just constantly like flipping bodies. So they're like, we don't actually know.
Interesting.
But
So
yeah,
you fodder for future. Do you have plans for more in the world?
yeah. I have another one plotted for one of the side characters. He becomes more moves more into the spotlight. But yeah, I if what I would love would be if I could ever get a co-author to help me write something that looks at like the ramifications for race, because I did not touch that. I was not going to touch
Hmm.
that. I am not qualified to touch that, but it's incredible to think about like what would that do to race if you could just swap bodies. Like, and then what is race? What is ethnicity? What does that even mean on a
Culture.
global stage? Yeah. And so that is a question I would love to look at in a different book, but I don't have the capacity for that. So that's not my lane, and
Well,
I'm
I
not going to
mean,
go there. But it would be great to write with someone.
I think that, you can approach it. I think what would probably be in line is have sensitivity readers from
Right.
those communities.
I could,
and
but I
then
think
they
like
can.
I think somebody else would have better ideas than me. Is what I come down to is I'm an ESL teacher, so I have taught a lot of English to speakers of other languages, so I have a lot of like background with different ethnicities, but I don't know if I don't know if I could do that justice. So like that's just me staying away from something I don't think I could do right. And there's like
Right.
questions that I wouldn't even think to ask that I think would be fascinating with that. Like again, what does it do to culture? What does it do to anything? And just yeah, but that would be another one I would love to write someday.
Yeah.
Mm.
I encourage you to explore the world outside what you do know,
Yeah,
because that's where imagination takes over.
it is, and
Right.
there's
And
so
if that
much
were the
in there.
case, you wouldn't have people of color writing white characters. You wouldn't have white people writing characters that are people of color. So you kind of have to just dive into the deep end and then sort of, and really it's realistically, I mean, because no culture is a monolith, no
Mm-hmm.
race is a monolith. Each person's going to have their own unique journey, which colors all of their decisions and what they do, which is why instead of thinking of it as race being the dividing line, I always think of it as perceptions, because perceptions are universal across all of us. And our perceptions actually guide and make us make decisions that we're not even aware of, that our perceptions are in play. So if you take it from that perspective, it brings it back to a human quotient, so that you're talking about human to human. The race is kind of just the outer color of it, but you can actually use their life journey as a way of working out how they came to be who they are. So for me, that's how I get around it, is that perception is something that governs everybody. We all use it. We all don't know we're using it often when we're using it. So it's part of what makes our flaws. It's part of what makes our strengths and our weaknesses. It is something universal that we all tangibly hold on to. So maybe if you approach it from that perspective, thinking of it as a perception journey as opposed to a race or culture issue. Yes, there are those things like culture and stuff. You can go research. You can look up things to get a general idea of where it's going. Watch some YouTube channels of people from those communities to see what are the struggles, what do they talk about, what is the focus, which is what I do. I watch a lot of Black YouTubers to listen to what's going on in the community, to understand what's where they are and what discussions they're having. So doing that, you can actually start to absorb some of this stuff. And then if you feed it back into that perception thing, you can write a narrative that explains why this person may be of this race or this community, but may not have the same journey that everybody else has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that framework. I try to look at it more like what marginalities that I already have that I can talk about, and I have so many that I don't necessarily even want to like go elsewhere. But I have a lot of yeah, there's a lot of ideas for this
I, you
series.
know,
Yep.
I'll give
Yeah.
you one that I use that I ran into. I decided to make a character, a young girl, and I decided that she had Down syndrome. I have no experience with it. I know nobody who is from that community. But what I did see is I saw that in several documentaries and stuff, I saw that a lot of Down syndrome people have this perception. People have perceptions about them not being very bright, and yet they can be. They can be incredibly
Mhm,
intuitive, incredibly discerning.
mhm.
And there was on Glee, there was this character Becky who was, and
Yeah.
she was just the snarkiest character on, and I loved her. And I thought, if I'm going to write a character like that, I'm going to make her really perceptive and really empathetic and very, very like, I mean, she goes around telling everybody else, "Oh, you're just so dumb." I mean, she sees the clarity in a situation, and I just fell in love with her as a character because I abled her in a way that allowed her to stretch beyond what people's perceptions are of Down syndrome, and let her explore and actually be a have her own agency and moving forward. And I've had people respond to her and say that they thought she was a delightful character, but I didn't really get into the mire of Down syndrome. I
Mm.
just alluded to that's what it was, but I really focused on her character strengths and the things that made her adorable, that was
Love
able
it.
to convey that. So that's another way to do it too. Just
Yeah.
make the character so incredibly captivating that almost everything else melts away.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So, April, is there anything else about the Switch you want folks to know that we didn't think to ask?
Just like to say that I know that people have a lot of choices in what they read, and what I have to offer people are, explosions, action scenes, and a conversation about disability and gender affirmation, and also spider bots, like spider bots wearing tiny hats, my friends. Like that is what I have to offer.
Spiderbots with hats.
They have tiny hats. Yeah, they change for the situation that they're in. So there's spider bots with tiny hats. So like that's what I have to offer. So, vote for me, read my book, please put a
Well,
review
there
on
you go, right there.
spider bots wearing
Love
tiny
it.
hats. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Love
actually
it.
have an embosser. Because that's the type of nerd I am. I have an embosser of a spider bot to be able to, when I sign books, I can emboss the pages just because that seems so like classic. And but
That's
one of my
epic.
one of my friends made
That
it.
is
Yeah,
epic.
yeah, she's a graphic designer, so she made like this little embosser, and it's just gorgeous. But yeah, there's a spider bot wearing a Napoleonic hat. So if anybody needs that in their life, I can help you.
Well, so at the end of the interview, we're going to ask where people can meet you and get their books embossed. But are you ready for our get to know you questions?
Sure, hit me.
Okay,
Okay.
take it
Well,
away,
in this
Bess.
year of diving deeper, what is your favorite writing drink or snack?
Ramune, it's a soda from Japan.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay. That's new, and we haven't had that one before. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, what books did you read growing up?
Anne McCaffrey, I would say, the Dragon Riders of
oh,
Pern was like
yeah.
when I was on a test, I remember this on a standardized test, there was a short story of Anne McCaffrey with one of the young Dragon Riders of Pern, and I couldn't believe that it was on a test that this sparked everything. So good standardized test back then had a great reading selection. I've seen some of the ones now. They're not as good. They talk about wind socks often. So um, that one, but that Dragon Riders of Fern all the way. That was just amazing. I mean, she was a fantasy and a sci-fi in one series. Like how she's
Right.
just a boss. She's a boss.
Hmm.
Okay. So, who's been the biggest supporter of your writing?
Oh, so I have a lot of people that I'm really lucky to have. I have writing friends, and I have my writers group, and of course my agents. And but I have my best friend Elise, who is my writing partner. She's my alpha partner. We can brainstorm together. She doesn't ever break stuff. She's incredible, and we just work a lot on things. But I can send her something at any time of day, and she'll just hearts and rainbows and unicorns. It just explodes from your phone. So it's just very affirming.
Excellent. Okay. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Regrettably, I'm a morning person. I really, it's no, it's annoying because there's the piety of being a morning person and the virtue that you're so like virtuous that you get up earlier. And then, but night owls are fun. So they're fun. But I'm asleep by like 10. So like 9, I'm like, I need to be in bed. If you tell me the thing starts at 8, I'm like, that's a little bit late. We're going to have to start at 5, because if it starts at 7, I'm even questioning it. Probably not going to go.
All right. What's your favorite hobby outside of writing?
So I have a lot of random hobbies, but I think my one that I love, just because it brings a lot of zen into my life, is blacksmithing, because nothing is better than a big flame, a piece of metal, and just banging the bejesus out of it. It's
Well, there
so
you go.
satisfying. It's
Yeah.
satisfying. Yeah,
Excellent. All right. Has writing and publishing a book changed the way you see yourself?
absolutely. I think it also, changing the way I see myself, helped me to get through the trenches that are of trying to get published, be it uh, indie, or I have an agent now, so traditional publishing. It is hard, and trying to look at it as being like the publishing industry as being just spaghetti that you're just throwing things against the wall and maybe one of them sticks, and seeing it like that helped me to see myself more as a good writer in spite of all of that, because it was for a very long time, like I said earlier, it was destructive, like getting all the rejections, and it's very disheartening. So if there's anybody who is trying to get into all that world, just look at it like spaghetti. It has very little to do with you. Slush piles are just a pile, they're a literal pile of slush, and they just, whether they're going to find you, that one kernel out of the whole thing, like it's
And at
just
the right time. Sometimes it's
Right.
Mhm.
timing,
Sometimes it
you
is
Yeah.
know?
timing. Actually, yeah, I wrote this book quite a number of years ago, because in my writing, I would just keep writing. I would try and do something. I would try and get it out there. I would send like 15 query letters and then be like, oh, this is horrible. Maybe 30 if I was feeling really brave. And then I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. And I would just keep writing. So this actually was a book I wrote quite a number of years ago, and then edited to be a little more look a little deeper into gender and disability stuff when I got my publisher. Knowing that it was going to be at an LGBTQ press, I wanted to deepen the themes even more than they were before and look at it a little more deeply. So yeah, I'd say thinking of myself changed a lot with publishing. But yes, it's a crazy ride trying to do anything with publishing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you were to write a spin-off about a side character, which would you pick? I think you already mentioned that.
Spiderbots, no spiderbots.
Oh, Spiderbots.
Spiderbots, 100%.
Spiderbots in space.
I hadn't thought of that. That's happening now. Thank you. That's canon. They have to, and they have little tiny space helmets. I mean, they wear like one of them they're cleaning and they just have an upside down like pail on their head. And it's just everything about the Spiderbots makes me happy. So thank you. Now it's Spiderbots in space. That's
Spiderbots in space. Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Canon.
You heard it here first, people. Okay. Have you ever traveled as research for a book?
No, and I'm very angry at the authors that were clever enough to write things about like NASA or zoos. Like I'm very mad at like Andy Weir and Stuart Gibbs for writing things that got them into like NASA and zoos. What I hope now, maybe if I would love to actually be able to go to Open Bionics, which is a company that actually makes bionics, bionic arms and things. One of their arms is called the hero arm. It's just cool. It's just amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Look it up. Look up Tilly Lockey. She is a teenager who has been a model for Open Bionics for a while. For the opening of Alita, Battle Angel Alita. Yeah, Battle Angel Alita. She ended up getting matching bionic arms. They made her specifically. Yeah, it's amazing. Look up pictures. Love that human being. Love her positivity for everything about how being disabled makes you a better, stronger, more awesome, and interesting person. But like their arms are neat because I actually made a lot of things. Like again, I made this years ago that didn't have the level of technology in bionics that they do actually now, where she can just like if she needs to like be playing drums, she has like another attachment and then she can put the drumstick in it to be able to like it's incredible. And it's like I make stuff up and then I'm like, oh shoot, it's actually real. Like it's an uncomfortable
I know. The
feeling.
tech is now moving so fast that as fast as we can imagine it, it's already there.
It's already there. But it ended up being a lot of the things that I put into the novel I thought weren't real. I thought they were just terrible, like being losing your arms and being given a hook instead of a bionic arm. That actually is a real thing. Like having that was Tilly's story, is that the first thing she got was a hook, and then she got these arms that didn't work but like looked very real, but they were useless to her, but they made everyone else more comfortable. And so eventually when she got to the robotic arm, she was just like, I am owning this. I'm going to bedazzle these. I'm going to make these center stage. And now everybody is just like, these are awesome. And she's like, yeah, I know. And so it's very interesting, but that was a lot of stuff I had in there. And I was like, oh geez, like I didn't think like the healthcare piece of this, I didn't want that to be real, and then it became really real, and I was like, that made me uncomfortable.
Okay, well, how do you celebrate when you finish a book?
So I'm very, very bad at that, but what I've decided is I'm going to be better about celebrating when stuff is published, and I'm going to make my awesome embossers. I also have bookmarks, so if there are any like people who are like, oh my gosh, you really need that, I just got stickers that I can emboss and then I can mail people. So if like people contact me, you can get your Spiderbot on an embossed sticker, even if you live somewhere far away. So that's how I'm going to celebrate from now on, is making tiny little things. Yeah, it's super. Oh my gosh, it's super fun. But like embossing just makes me feel like a boss. It's great.
Like a boss.
Like a boss. I am an embosser.
You're the embossed boss. There you go. All right. Well, you made it through the list. Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks.
So you've given people a lot of reasons to contact you. Where's the best place to do so?
Probably my website. There is a contact form right on there. It's aprilmccloud.com, and there are 2 C's, and it is cloud, like what is in the sky, and it is April, like the month. It really isn't hard, but yet it can feel hard. It can feel hard.
Nice. Do you use any of the socials on a regular basis?
Yes, I have Twitter.
Okay.
And I don't think anything else that is like currently up and alive. Oh, Goodreads. Goodreads is the other thing that I do have, and I would love if anybody would like go on Goodreads and be friendsies. That sounds great. Trying to make an author thing on Goodreads is a little complicated because there's not really a way to interact unless other people come for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I've ever found, is that it's really hard from a creator standpoint to actually make a connection. It's not the most. Yeah. You would think they would have revamped it by now, because with everything that's available now, but I guess people have moved on. Now there's Discord servers and all kinds of stuff that you can do to create community. So I guess maybe it's just a little antiquated now, but yeah, I feel you. I feel you on the Goodreads thing.
Yeah.
Well, and they also need to go, leave reviews and likes.
Please,
Yeah.
please, for the love of all things, it would be really great, because reviews are hard, and trying to beat the analytics to make things come up. And I know that my book is from an indie press, so the price point is a little bit higher because it's an indie press and they have more cost to be able to do this. So, but my press is Rebel Satori, and it's the Queer Space imprint. And just for full disclosure, the LGBTQ is male to female trans, female to male trans, and someone who I would call chaotic pansexual. That's his alignment.
Oh, there you go.
He is 100%. He is chaotic pansexual. When you meet him, you'll understand. You're like, okay, that makes sense. That tracks.
That's what that is. Okay.
That's what that is. Because he's not. You can't put him into a box of one of the other categories. He is just. Yeah, if you don't add the chaotic
Out
part,
there.
it's not right. Yeah, it's not right. It's just not right. He's seen things, he's done things, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Excellent.
My little D&D heart loved the reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that is also the type of nerd I'm trying to reach. You'll appreciate it. There are so many nerdy references in there, from superheroes to Pikachu to trolls. They're in there. They're in there.
All right, love it. Any final words of wisdom?
No, just spiderbots and tiny hats, friends. Spiderbots and tiny hats.
Spiderbots in space.
Spiderbots in space. In space. All right, folks, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to April McCloud, not only for jumping in and taking an open spot today, but for being here and sharing her book with the world. April, thank you so much.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. All right, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about new articles of anything, if you like new books, new movies, new anything, subscribe, follow. We want to hear from you. Follow us on YouTube. Baz and Albert over there are reviewing some really cool queer media, and I'm sure they would love your comments on what they're doing. Please go follow them. And tune in next week for your Queer Media Fix.
Bye-bye now.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.